do, 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 do. Aloha there, and oh man, it's good to be back. Well, I'm taking things in stride, so let's see how today goes at least. So we've been in this article for a while, and as usual, I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm just going to go through gist, even though the gist tends to be a while. I mean, so much so that I actually saw some recent gameplay of Duke Nukem 3. No, not Duke Nukem 3. Duke Nukem Forever when it used to be a 3D game similar to the first one around like 2001. There's a live demo that showcased it. They finally released some gameplay of it and people can play the build. It's not perfect, but people are still digging their teeth into it, which is good. And yeah, I think I could even go more into it. Maybe at one point play it, but we'll see. We'll see. So yeah, this is a sports one. Yeah, the last battle. Yeah, we gone through part of this, part of legacy and such. So they also have the modern view of how people view it. We haven't gone through here. So I haven't got much of the last battle, so I think I could start there. But first, let me. Okay. Yeah, I've gone through the part and there's Sportswood. Let me just skim through this in my head. Yeah, when it comes to all of this, wow. Wow. Then actually led by, when it came to the colonies, trying to capture Blackbeard and had him killed. Mm. Alrighty. After going through all this, just builds up the lead up to the last battle of how the colonial forces of the British colony going to capture him and have him killed for his crimes, his dastardly ways, in order to prevent any issues to the colonies by pirates per se, not by other forces like the Spanish or the French, but mainly the pirates. When it comes to think about it, it's quite interesting. But I think they didn't put the gist in this Wikipedia article how the British actually created well, not the modern day pirates, but the modern inception of what pirates are, as they used to be privateers, but now into a life of scurvy and plunder. Hmm. And they're going to put it down. Quite interesting thinking about that. So, get this. Last battle. Maynard found the pirates anchored on the inner side of Ocracoke Island on the evening of 21 November. He has asserted their position from ships he had stopped along his journey, but being unfamiliar with the local channels and shoals, he decided to wait until the following morning to make his attack. He stopped all traffic from entering the inlet, preventing any warning of his presence, and posted a lookout on both slopes to ensure that Thatch could not escape the sea. I still remember with the whole teach thing that it is not teach, it's pronounced as thatch. Even though there's some spellings in English language that they have as THATCA. But, tomato but tomato. After all, maybe there's another reason why people call it Blackbeard. Because even people who do not know the Queen's English versus colonial English, they can have the idea that the pirate with the very long black beard is named after Blackbeard. Further ado, on the other side of the island, Thatch was busy entertaining guests and had not set a lookout. With Israel hands ashore in Bath with about 24 of Adventure's sailors, he also had a much reduced crew. Johnson, 1724, reported Thatch had no more than 25 men on board, and that he gave out to all the vessels that he spoke with that he had 13 white and 6 negroes, was the number later reported by Brand to the Admiralty. At daybreak, preceded by a small boat taking soundings, Maynard's 2 sloop entered the channel. The small craft was quickly spotted by Adventure and fired at as soon as it was within range of their guns. While the boat made a quick retreat to the Jane, Thatch cut the Adventure's anchor cable. His crew hoisted the sails and the Adventure maneuvered to point her starboard guns toward Maynard's slopes, which was slowly closing the gap. Hyde moved Ranger to the port side of Jane, and the Union flag was unfurled on each ship. Adventure then turned toward the beach of Ocracoke Island, heading for a narrow channel. What happened next is uncertain. Johnson claimed that there was an exchange of small arms fire following which Adventure ran aground on a sandbar, and Maynard anchored and then lightened his ship to pass over the obstacle. Another version claimed that Jane and Ranger ran aground, although Maynard made no mention of this in his log. The Adventure eventually turned her guns on the 2 ships and fired. The broadside was devastating. In an instant, Maynard had lost as much as a third of his forces. About 20 on Jane were either wounded or killed, and 9 on Ranger. Hyde was dead, and his 2nd and 3rd officers either died or seriously injured. His sloop was so badly damaged that it played no further role in the attack. Contemporary accounts of what happened next are confusing. And you know what is also confusing? Make sure that this camera feels aligned. Because I just saw in my peripheral vision that this thing tends to act a little bit malicious whenever I try to step aside. And I'm not talking about the usual technical issues with this camera. If y'all remember ever since, the past while when I was streaming. Man. So his soap was badly damaged. Now we're talking about misaccounts. Contemporary accounts of what happened next are confused, but small arms fired from Jane may have cut Adventure's jib sheet, causing her to lose control and run onto the sandbar. In the aftermath of Thatch's overwhelming attack, Jane and Ranger may have been grounded. The battle would have become a race to see who could float their ship first. Maynard had kept many of his men below deck, and in anticipation of being boarded, told them to prepare for close fighting. Thatch watched as the gap between the vessels closed and ordered his men to be ready. The two vessels contacted one another as the Venture's grappling hook hit their target, and several grenades made from powder and short-filled bottles and ignited by fuses broke across the slope's deck. As the smoke cleared, Thatch led his men abroad, beyond at the sight of Menard's apparently empty ship, his men firing at the small group of men with Menard at the stern. The rest of Menard's men then burst from the hold, shouting and firing. The plan to surprise Thatch and his crew worked. The pirates were apparently taken aback at the assault. Thatch rallied his men and the two groups fought across the deck, which was already slick with the blood from those killed or injured by Thatch's broadside. Menard and Thatch fired their flintlocks at each other. Menard managed to hit Thatch, while Thatch missed, but then threw their flintlocks away and drew their cutlasses. Thatch broke Menard's cutlass at the hilt. Against superior training and a slight advantage in numbers, the pirates were pushed back toward the bow, allowing the Jane's crew to surround Menard and Thatch, who was by then completely isolated. Thatch pressed onward and was about to deliver a killing blow, but was slashed across the neck by one of Menard's men. This redirected Thatch's cutlass to strike Menard's knuckles instead of killing him. Badly wounded, Thatch was then attacked and killed by several more of Menard's crew. The remaining pirates quickly surrendered. Those left on the Venture were captured by the Ranger's crew, including one who planned to set a fire to the powdered rope and blow up the ship. Varying accounts exist of the battle's list of casualties. Menard reported that 8 of his men and 12 pirates were killed. Brand reported that 10 pirates and 11 of Menard's men were killed. Spotswood claimed 10 pirates and 10 of the king's men died. Menard legally examined Thatch's body, knowing that it had been shot 5 times and cut about 20. He also found several items of correspondence, including a letter from Tobias Knight. Thatch's corpse was thrown into the inlet, and his head was suspended by the bowsprit of Menard's slope so that the reward could be collected. On their return to Virginia, Thatch's head was placed on the pole at the entrance of the Chesapeake Bay as the warning to other pirates and greetings to other ships. It stood there for several years. Okay. My headphones disconnected, or something else actually disconnected because of what connection? Let's see. Okay, seems like everything is good on this side along with the stream. Well, hope it doesn't become a big promotions. So, after looking through this, under the last battle of pretty much 2 ships, commanders from the British actually engaging, trying to capture the Patricks from an ambush, trying to not let the ship escape, getting everybody. That was pretty good. Alrighty. To reported exchange of views between Thatch and Menard. Damn you for villains, who are you, and for whence came you? The lieutenant made him answer. You may see by our colors we are no pirates. See, Blackbeard bid him send his boat on board, that he might see who he was, but Mr. Menard replied thus, Cannot spare my boat, but I will come abroad of you as soon as I can, with my sloop. Upon this, Blackbeard took a glass of liquor and drank to him with these words, Damnation seize my soul if I give you quarters, or take any from you. In answer to which, Mr. Menard told him that he expect no quarters from him, nor should he give him any. Along with his picture, Capture of the Pirate, Blackbeard, 1718. Jean-Léon Jerome Ferris, painted in 1920. It's pretty cool. And okay, Edward Thatch's severed head hangs from Menard's bowsprit as pictured as Charles Elite's The Pirate's Own Book, 1837. This was even before Treasure Island became a hit. Wow. And you can see this is actually the famous picture. Wow. Okay, yeah, that seems to be a better look. And yeah, showing Menard and Blackbeard fighting to like one last man standing. And also looking at this person's face, like, damn, I probably didn't expect all that. So that shows the last days of Blackbeard, and that he has his rolling head in the Chesapeake Bay in the 1700s. And makes me wonder what they did afterwards. I guess that when it comes to the head, they just let pieces of it just go to the ocean. Perhaps it was a fitting end. Yeah. Now you have the legacy. Lieutenant Menard remained at Orcoke for several more days, making repairs and burying the dead. That just loot, sugar, cocoa, indigo, and cotton found in pirate slopes in the shore in the tent where the slopes lay was sold at auction along with sugar and cotton found in Tobis Knight's barn for 2,238 pounds. Governor Sportswood used a portion of this to pay for the entire operation. The price money for capturing Thatch was to have been about 400 pounds, 67,000 pounds in 2023, but it was split between the crews of HMS Lemon and HMS Pearl, as Captain Brand and his troops would have been the ones fighting for their lives. Menard thought his extremely unfair. He lost much of any support he may have had, though when it was discovered that his crew had helped themselves to about 90 pounds of Thatch's booty, the two companies did not receive. Yeah, I'm just having a face. Did not receive the prize money for another 40 years, and despite his bravery, Menard was not promoted and faded into obscurity. Which, yeah, I didn't know much about the Menard person and his plight towards getting Blackbeard. After all, seems like when it comes to understanding these controversial figures, they tend to not talk about the people who brought them down per se, or more like a nuisance into their plight, criminality, their own work and stuff. Which I always feel that it is quite underrated not following a bunch of characters when it comes to a controversial figure, because the controversial figure is not the person itself, but rather the controversy and the person who situates these situations that are so controversial. And that also includes many factors like the people who into this controversy brings up different plights, like either the good, the bad, the ones who are telling the truth, the people who are lying, other people's agendas, and that it could include a lot more than just one person's. Like, I remember I kept on talking about this a long time ago, but no, still today again. On serial killer shows where they talk more about the serial killers, but not the actual people who caught them, nor the victims per se. Because I could say the victims per se because it's not just the people who he actually killed, but the people who actually impacted his lives, either in a negative, but also in a positive when it comes to how the whole controversy in their own legacy is the people they put into harm's way, whether through there's things. There's a reason why people say when it comes to Jeffrey Dahmer, it is the many gay relationships he had when it comes to people. That is also the case with, let's say, well, I was about to say like O.J. Simpson. when it comes to certain people is related to them. But I think another person could say is Bill Cosby, because disgustingly, it has to do with the amount of people uh, he has impacted because of his devious acts throughout a good portion of the life he lived. And, being a bit vague because it even shows that there's still more into it. I mean, that's why it's so controversial, because to show that there is something to keep talking about rather than just keep pushing aside. But further ado, yeah, when it comes to the security of Menard, it's too bad. He was the person who actually fought toe to toe with Blackbeard and lived. The remainder of Thatch's crew and former associates were found by Brand in Bath and were transported to Williamsburg, Virginia. Good old Bath. I wonder. Alrighty. And were transferred to Williamsburg, Virginia, where they were jailed on charges of piracy. Several were black, prompting Spotswood to ask his counsel that could be done about the circumstances of these Negroes to exempt them from undergoing the same trial as other pirates. Regardless, the men were tried with their comrades in Williamsburg Capitol building under Admiralty Law on 12 March 1719. No records of the day's proceedings remain, but 14 of the 16 accused were found guilty. The remaining two, one proved that he had One proved that he had partaken of the plight out of necessity, having been on Thatch's ship only as a guest at a drinking party at the night before, and not as a pirate. The other, Israel Hands, were not present at the fight. He claimed that during a drinking session, Thatch had shot him in the knee, and that he is still covered by the royal pardon. The remaining pirates were hanged and then left to rot in gilbets along Williamsburg Capitol Landing Road, known for some time after as Gallows Road. Gallows Road. Gallows Road. Gallows Road. Gallows Road. Okay, it's been a while since I've been practicing. Governor Eden was certainly embarrassed by Spotswood's invasion of North Carolina, and Spotswood disavowed himself and any part of the seizure. He defended his actions, writing to Lord Carteret, a shareholder of the province of Carolina, that he might benefit from the sale of the seized property and remaining the Earl of the numbers of Virginians who had died to protect his interest. He argued for the secrecy of the operation by suggesting that Eden could contribute nothing to the success of the design, and told Eden that his authority to capture the pirates came from the king. Eden was heavily criticized for his involvement with Thatch and was accused of being his accomplice. By criticizing Eden, Spotswood intended to bolster the legitimacy of his invasion. Lee, 1974, concluded that... Okay, let me check the monitor again. Okay, everything should be good. So far, concludes that although Spotswood may have thought that his ends justified the means, he had no legal authority to invade North Carolina, to capture the pirates, and to seize the auction of their goods, and auction their goods. Eden doubtless shared the same view, as Spotswood had also accused Tobias Knight of being in league with Thatch. On 4th April 1719, Eden had Knight brought in for questioning. Israel Hands, weeks earlier, testified the knight had been abroad to the venture in August 1718. Okay, shortly after Dutch had brought a French ship to North Carolina as a prize. Four pirates had testified that which Thatch had been visiting Knight's home to give his presents. This testimony and the latter found on Thatch's body by Menard appear compelling, but Knight conducted his defense with competence. Despite being very sick and close to death, he questioned the reliability of Spotswood's witnesses. He claimed that Israel Hands had talked under duress, and under North Carolinian law, the other witness, an African, was unable to testify. The sugar, he argued, was stored at his house legally, and Thatch had visited him only on business. In his official capacity, the board found Knight innocent of all charges. He died later that year. Eden was annoyed that the accusations against Knight arose during a trial to which he played no part. The goods which Brand seized were officially North Carolinian property, and Eden considered himself a threat. The argument raged back and forth between the colonies until Eden's death on 17 March 1722. His will name one of Spotswood's opponents, John Hollywood, a beneficiary. In the same year, Spotswood, who for years had fought his enemies in the House of Progress and the Council, was replaced by Hugh Drysdale once Robert Walpole was convinced to act. Oh man. So remind me again. I'm getting confused. Okay, so we all know all this, yet there's this freaking example when it comes to, what is it? Yeah, it talks about the whole Negroes and trying to not have them trialed in the same play, where in the end result they're gonna treat them harshly because it's pirates. So it seems like, okay, I think you're gonna want to just put them all on a speedy ass trial, because if you have the fact that you're not recording all this and recording because you just don't like the history of pirates and such. I mean, it's like Vikings. We don't know much about them because the people we end up talking about thought that they were just not even worth talking about, and they just want to shrug off and stuff. I could understand that. If you point that out, where, I don't want to actually record all these people's lives because they're disgusting human beings, and I don't even treat them as human beings, then yeah, sure, but the fact that you want to make a huge commotion when it comes to racializing people who have a different skin color, like most of the population in Caribbean, because the term Negro is such a negative person that it's not even considered a person, it's just considered a entirely different race, like how you would consider Asians as celestials, which it just points out a bias. That's the thing I just realized after reading all this and just seeing how they sure like to talk about things that's been going on, but not the actual people, reasons why they do particular things and such. So, I take it that after the legacy, there's also the modern view, which is different. And it'll probably bring things to light. There's actually no pictures of this a bit. Looking at the time, I'm pretty much don't have much of it. So, I could go through here. There's not so much. But I think for the meantime, I could talk more about, this article, such how I am. So, yeah. I'm gonna try to do things for the better, which is taking things in stride and keeping in a pace, because right now I'm just feel weak in my stomach, and other things that I'm just going to go through the flow as usual, but keeping my mind of doing things for the better. Anywho, it was nice being back. And further ado, aloha.